Okay, we're going to do chapter 23. Luke let the kitchen door slam behind him and didn't care. He was so mad his eyes blurred. The nerve of her, saying, "I don't have time for you." Who did she think she was? He tramped up the stairs. She'd always thought she was better than him, just because she was a baron, showing off with her soda and her potato chips and her fancy computer. So what? It didn't mean she was special, just because her parents had lots of money. It wasn't like she'd earned it or anything. Who was she, anyway? Just some dumb old girl. He wished he'd never gone over there. All she did was brag, 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 and show off. That's all the rally was, anyhow, showing off. Hey, look, I'm a third child, and I can go to the president's house, and nobody will hurt me. He hoped someone shot her. That would show her. Luke stopped in the middle of pulling the attic door shut behind him. No, he took it back. He didn't want anyone to shoot her. His knees went weak, and he had to sit down on the stairs. All his anger suddenly turned to fear. What if someone did shoot her? He remembered the sign she'd asked if he wanted to carry. Give me liberty or give me death. Was she serious? Did she expect to? He stopped himself from thinking the rest. What if she never came back? He should go, if only to protect Jen. But he couldn't. Luke buried his face in his hands, trying to hide from his own thoughts. Mother found him there hours later, still crouched on the stairs. Luke, were you getting impatient, waiting for me to get home? Did you have a nice day? Luke stared at her as though she were a vision from another life. He started, ready to spill everything. He couldn't hold it all in. Mother felt his forehead. Are you sick? You're so pale. I worry about you, Luke, all day long. But then I remind myself you're safe here at home, out of harm's way. She gave him a weary smile and ruffled his hair. Luke swallowed hard and recovered himself. What was he thinking? He couldn't tell anyone about Jen. He couldn't betray her. I'm fine, he lied. I just haven't been out in the sun for a while, remember? Not that I'm complaining, of course, he added hastily, hiding again. We're going to go straight into chapter 24. For 3 days, Luke agonized. Sometimes he decided he had to stop Jen, to persuade her not to go. Sometimes he decided he ought to go with her. Sometimes he was mad again and thought he should just stalk over there and demand an apology. But anything he might do required seeing Jen, and that wasn't possible. It poured every day, the rain coming down in long, dreary sheets that made Luke feel worse as he watched from the attic vents. Downstairs, he could hear Dad stomping around, muttering every now and then about the thyme and topsoil being lost with every raindrop. Luke felt like a prisoner. Thursday night, he went to bed convinced he'd never be able to sleep, for imagining Jen and the others in her car getting further and further from him and closer to danger. But he must have dozed off because he woke to total darkness. His heart pounded. He was sweaty. Had he dreamed something? Had he heard something? A floorboard creaked. His ears roared as he tried to listen. Was that someone else's breath or just his own? Loud and scared, a beam of light swept across his face. Luke? A whisper. Luke bolted up in bed. Jen, is that you? She switched off her flashlight. Yes, I thought I'd kill myself coming up your stairs. Why didn't you tell me they were so narrow? She sounded like the same old Jen. Not mad, not crazy. I didn't know you'd ever be climbing them, Luke said. It was insane to be talking about stairs now in the middle of the night in his room. Every word either of them spoke was dangerous. Mother was a light sleeper, but Luke was delighted not to be moving on, not to be talking about what Jen had really come to talk about. Your parents didn't lock your doors, Jen said. She seemed to be stalling too. Guess I'm lucky the government outlawed pets. Didn't farmers always used to keep big guard dogs that would chomp people's heads off in one bite? Luke shrugged. He remembered Jen couldn't see him in the dark. He wasn't sure what he was going to say until he said it. I still can't go. I'm sorry. It's something about having parents who are farmers, not lawyers, and not being a baron. It's people like you who change history. People like me, we just let things happen to us. No, you're wrong. You can make things happen. Luke sensed, rather than saw, Jen shaking her head. Even in the dark, he could visualize each precisely cut strand of hair bouncing and falling back into place. I'm sorry, she continued. I didn't come here to harp at you. This is dangerous, and no one should go unwillingly. I was too hard on you the other day. I just wanted to say, you've been a good friend. I'll miss you. But you'll be back, Luke said. Tomorrow or the next day after the rally. I'll be over to visit. If your rally works, I'll be walking in the front door. We can hope, Jen said softly. Her voice faded away. Goodbye, Luke. Chapter 25. Luke lay awake the rest of the night. At first light, he got up and quietly scrubbed away the mud Jen had tracked in and up the stairs. Trust her not to think about mud. He fervently hoped she'd thought of all the details about the rally. Luke was just finishing the last of the kitchen floor when he heard the toilet flushing upstairs. He hid the muddy rags in the trash and scrambled back to his place on the stairs just in time to meet Mother coming down. Morning, early bird, she yawned. Were you up during the night? I thought I heard something. I had trouble sleeping, Luke said truthfully. Mother yawned again. And you're up early. Feeling okay? Just hungry, Luke said. But he picked at his food. Everything he ate stuck in his throat. After the rest of his family left, he risked sneaking over and turning the radio on low. There were weather reports and commercials for soybean seed and lots of music. Come on, he muttered, keeping one eye on the side window, watching for Dad. Finally, the radio voice announced the news. Someone's cattle had gotten out and caused a minor car wreck. Nobody hurt. A government spokesman predicted a poor planting season because of all the rain. Nothing about the rally. Dad came back toward the house. Luke snapped off the radio and bolted for the stairs. At lunch, Dad forgot to turn the radio on, and Luke had to remind him. The announcer promised a big story after the commercials. His sandwich gone, Dad reached over to turn the radio off. No, wait, Luke said. This might be interesting. Dad harumphed, but waited. The announcer came back. He cleared his throat and declared that new government statistics proved last year's alfalfa harvest had set a record for the decade. It was like that for days. Luke kept waiting, desperate to hear anything, but the few times he could get to the radio, it said nothing. Every time Dad left the house for any length of time, Luke switched on the light by the back door, his old signal to Jen. He stared so hard, willing her answering light to go on, that he thought he would go blind. But there was nothing. He took to watching her house as obsessively as he had when he had first discovered her existence. There was no sign of her. The rest of her family came and went as usual. Did they look sadder, happy, worried, at peace? From a distance, he couldn't tell. He got so desperate, he asked Mother if she'd thought about going over to visit the new neighbors, to welcome them to the area. She looked at him as if he were deranged. Kobe! Ah! Sorry. So she looked at him as if he were deranged. They've been there for months. They're hardly new anymore. And they're barrens, she said. She laughed in a way that didn't hide her bitterness. Believe me, they don't want us visiting. And what was he supposed to do? Say, nice to meet you? Sorry. And what was she supposed to do? Say, nice to meet you? Now tell me everything about the child you never talk about? After a week, Luke did feel deranged. Every time anyone spoke to him, he jumped. Mother asked him, Are you all right? So many times he took to avoiding her, but he couldn't just sit in the attic waiting. He paced, he fidgeted, he chewed his fingernails, and he came up with a plan.